What's up, everybody? Welcome back to this revved channel. Today we're going to be checking out this old turbo. Going to be pulling it off to prep it for the new HE221, and then we're also going to be taking off this intake manifold. Alrighty, so I know that I said that I wanted to machine this so that it slid into here, but after getting the manifolds off and measuring it, it would have only been 1 millimeter thickness, which this stuff's pretty thick to begin with, but it only would have been 1 millimeter left on this on the inside to slide into here. So there was really no point in doing that, in my opinion. So we just put a V on there, cleaned it up real good, and then TIG welded that up all the way around. It's a little dirty down there because of contamination, but we got that on. I got a foot on here, so I'm gonna figure out which works best. Hopefully it's somewhere short so there's no chance of this ever cracking off from vibrations, just with leverage being on the end. So now we have the exhaust manifold and the old factory turbo we need to get removed, which is 4 17 millimeter nuts. This is the one that I started to get loose, but it was such a pain working over the fender on the Ranger. So let me get this intake pulled off, this turbo pulled off, and get this turbo out of here. Alright, so we got those 4 nuts removed and pulled off with the washers. Get this turbo slid off. Throw it to the side. And then now you can see where the EGT probe is. See, I just wiped it so it's a little bit more visible. It's right in the middle of the chamber. And then now we'll get this gasket off. And then we'll get to unboxing this. So I'm gonna bring this inside to the table and get it unboxed. And then, yeah, we'll bring the pieces out here as we need them and get them thrown back on here. Alright, so to remove the studs, you just put one nut down, put a wrench on it, and then you put the other nut and back it up to it. And then I used my raggedy impact and just tightened the heck out of this nut into that one. And then luckily it's lined up close enough where the impact could just slide over and reach this one as well, because this is the only one that you really want to loosen. You don't want to loosen that because then it'll just take the nut off. But once that's on there, I also used a candle, which I can bring this in here to show how I did that. So I used my torch with the map gas and got this baby extremely hot. And then I just dug my screwdriver in there, got a clump of wax, and then just dabbed it right here, and then it goes in and then gets sucked around the threads. I tried a penetrating oil for this one and then wax for those 3, and the threads are like perfect where I use the wax, and then they got a little boogered where I used the penetrating oil. But I ran a bolt through the bottom of that, and then I'm gonna do it a couple more times to get them threads cleaned because I don't have a tap for that one. But now that those studs are out, and the reason why the studs had to come out is because once this adapter goes on, the stud protruded like up to here, so it would have hit the turbo. And that's why it comes with the new hardware, so we can get that tightened down. So let me get that unbagged and then see which ones I need and get this thing going back together. Alright, so now that they're all unbagged, you can see that you have 2 lock nuts, 2 socket head cap screws, 6 little nuts, 4 studs, 4 bigger cap head screws, and then 4 smaller thread, just regular bolts. So we're gonna grab this new gasket. That's gonna go on here, and then this new bolt, the bigger cap screws, is going to go right into there, and then this is going to go on here, but I have this upside down. I think, yeah, might have been right. But basically when this goes on here, I'm trying to destroy this gasket. So when that goes on there, obviously it's just sitting there for now, but it matches the flow, how it comes out of the exhaust manifold. So I'll get those four put on with that new gasket and get them all tightened down, and we'll go to the next step. All right, so that's what that's gonna look like whenever it's all bolted on. A little bit of dirt on there. This one back here, I ended up finding a bolt that fit. Then I cut 4 grooves in it. You can see it's all, that one's kind of clean. That one's got some trash. That one's like completely trashed up. And that one as well is all gummed up. So I just ran that through the back and I went all the way up, and then I just removed it and then cleaned it out and threaded it in, and they're all tight. And it's a 8mm Allen head that you'll need to have to tighten that on there. Super nice machined piece. See Benzforce right there. I'm also being careful not to destroy this EGT probe out the back. And yeah, keep on rocking and rolling and get this thing done. It's a plan, at least. All right, so we put the exhaust manifold to the side, and then you're gonna want to get the turbo and lay it on a towel or something clean. I still have the things in there to keep it all clean, but so you have 2 12mm head bolts right there, and then a little C-clip right here. You can see I just set them right there, and then a 10mm for that clamp that goes around the cartridge itself. Let's see if that'll stay. And then when that's off, you have this, and you'll have to remove this little bitty pin right there. That pin goes into there to keep it orientated a specific way. And with it on the 617, it's orientated just a little bit different than whatever the factory application is. Because with it like this, the feed would be like right here, and the oil discharge would be right here, and you want the feed straight up and down, and then the discharge straight up and down for the least path of resistance. So I'm gonna get this pin out, and then while we also have this off, you have way more room to get this big C-clip off. And then there's also a pin on the cartridge that goes to the compressor housing. So we'll get that one removed, we'll get this pin removed, and then that'll allow us to clock it exactly how we need it. And then once we get that done and get this orientated roughly where we need it, then we can get back to working on this and getting it closer to what we need. Alright, so I used my snap ring pliers and I tried my needle nose pliers just to see which one would have the best bite, because the snap is so far, or the separation is so far apart, and I actually had better luck with these just because the teeth kind of held on better than these would. But once you get that off, just wiggle the cartridge out, set it somewhere clean, and here's the second pin. This is the one out of the exhaust housing, and I just put it in the, put the little pin right there in the vise, and then just wiggle this just a little and it popped right out. So let me get this one removed, and that will allow us to clock it, and then we can put it back together and get started on the continuation of installing this on the manifold, which I know I've said that 100 times now, but here we go. Okay, so we got those pins out, There's one, there's the other. Got it back assembled, and I highly suggest having more than yourself or a way better pair of snap ring pliers than these ones, because that thing is very strong. You can see a couple light scrapes on there, but I basically started this side, squeezed it, and then just ran my finger around, like pushing it in while also keeping it pinched as tight as I possibly could to get it by myself. But it's all the way in there, and the 10 is back tight on there, just not crazy tight, just snug, because we may have to orientate the cartridge just a little bit more. And the next step is to install the 4 studs that we had. Get them all finger snug. Put this back over here. Once that's on there, we can throw one gasket, and then this bracket is going to go on there like this, and then the second gasket will go on, and then the turbo itself, and then the 4 nuts right here. So I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down, and then put this back onto the turbo. So it's going to end up like this right here. Obviously it'll be on there better, it's just me holding it up there, but that's basically how it's going to end up right there. So I'm going to set this down real quick, get this all tightened up, and then get this snapped onto there, and then we'll slide it on as a whole assembly. Alright, so got that gasket on, then the plate, and the gasket, then the turbo, and then the 4 nuts. Got those babies cranked down as tight as I can possibly get them with just a little 10mm wrench. Nothing crazy. Don't need like 300 foot-pounds on it. And then still gotta tighten these and put the back housing on, and the oil orifice, the drain, the coupling. So I'm gonna start with this back housing, and then we'll keep on going. Goes just like that. That's what the other 4 bolts are for. We got the gasket, obviously. Kind of hard to juggle my phone and do this. I don't know where my little mount went. So I'm just gonna set this down and then show you what it looks like when it's on there, because it's super easy to just put it on there. Alright, so I jumped the gun just a little bit. I got this on, got the V-band just chilling, so it's off the workbench. It's a disaster. We got the drain on, which is pretty tight to get through here. I originally had this clocked lower, and I was able to go through here and get to the bolt like that. Got it tight, which I'm check it again now that there's clearance. Yeah, I've got another 1/8 of a turn out of it. That one's good. Alright, so we got the drain, and then the feed was, I think it was a 15mm wrench and a 14 to go on here, and then this is long enough to go back to the back of the, or not the back, yeah, the back driver's side of the engine to go to the oil filter housing. And then this would go, it's a banjo to 4A fitting, that would go in there to get you your oil feed. But since I already have one of these on there, and then mine is a 4A line that runs up to where we took off right here, that had a coupler on there, so I could have my oil pressure and oil temperature. I think I'm only reading oil temperature right there. Oil pressure's on the back of the filter housing, but anyways, I'm gonna have to get a shorter one of these because it's just gonna go like that probably. But for the time being, as long as it doesn't get kinked up, it'll probably be like looped like that, obviously out of the way and not all in a bind. This one on just has an O-ring that slides on the back of this. Put it on, make sure it's all straight with the turbo itself, and that'll work out good. And then now I can show what my intake is going to look like. Obviously it's not going to fit all the way because the pipe is too long, so that's close-ish, but I'm going to go ahead and cut this right there, about 1.25 inches sticking out, maybe 1.5 inches, and then weld the bead all the way around, and then we can just put a 90 and then a little coupling or whatever ends up needing to go right there. And then we have the other end of this right here, so this will go into the oil pan. With a new supply grommet. So this snaps into the oil pan like this. Then this will snap in, maybe it goes that way, and then this snaps into there, and then this will go on the oil pan, and then we'll have a line to go from there to there. So I'm going to go out to the truck now and get this tube popped out to get this one popped in, and then I'm going to see if I can get that cut and a bead welded on it today, and then we can go to the parts store and then pick up a line to go for this, and then maybe couplings and see if the exhaust lines up with what we had originally. So here we go. All right, so most people can't get in their car like this or their truck, but to get this tube out, I just filed with it. You can see I ripped the bushing right there. So it's gonna look like this, obviously. If you can get up in there and push on it and pop, because this goes on here a little bit further, it goes like that. But if you can pop the tube in and just pull or push the tube in just a little bit to right here, you can pull this grommet up super easy and then just pop the tube out. It'll just slide right out, no problems at all. And then this new one, oof, not gonna be anywhere good. Okay, so I got that pushed all the way over. This front edge is kind of rolled, but I'm hoping that once I get this piece pushed in to where it needs to go, I can push this grommet and then it'll roll this lip back over. Okay, so what I did, I know it's not all the way in, but if you just push this continuously like that, you'll get the grommet all the way in. And then now I'm gonna probably have to put my phone down and wiggle it like this while also pulling up, and then that'll get the AN fitting into the grommet like it's supposed to be. So I'm gonna put this down, start recording, pop it in, and then I'll get back with you. Alright, so what I ended up doing was grabbing a rag, and then I wrapped it around like that, and then pulled it up while wiggling it. And I got it all the way up. So now I'm gonna get out of here, see if I can get my intake modified again, and then put this up so that the oil doesn't drain more than there already is. Okay, so if I can get my intake modified, then I will come out here and put this back together, new gasket, put some leaves back there, and then I'll plumb. See, there's what I was talking about, the oil fitting. I may end up just going ahead and getting a new one from Napa while I'm there. And we can get this placed in here, and then I'll see how long the line needs to be for the oil drain. And yeah, hopefully the turbo gets somewhere close and I can modify that. Well, we're getting there. Now we go to the other rig. leak at these couplings because the pipe doesn't have flanges on them. Right here. Just a piece of pipe shoved in there with some spray glue. Go give her another 4th gear pull, see how she likes it. Charge pipe. Just now seen it because my phone's covering the boost gauge.